My name is Kim Johnson. I am 32 years old. I am the Chief Financial Officer of Hargrove Capital Partners, a private equity firm that manages over $2 billion in assets across the Eastern Seaboard. I have an MBA from the Wharton School of Business. I own a 4-bedroom house in a suburb of Philadelphia with a backyard big enough for a garden and a dog. I drive a car that I paid for in cash. I have a retirement account that will let me stop working at 55 if I want to. I have friends who love me. I have a man who wants to marry me. By every measure that society uses to define success, I am successful. But none of that is why I am telling you this story. I am telling you this story because 3 months ago, 2 people sued me for $5 million. They were my parents. Lawrence and Marie Johnson. To understand how we got here, you need to understand who my parents were. Not who they became. Who they were before I was born. Lawrence Johnson grew up in a wealthy family in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. His father, my grandpa Johnson, was a real estate developer who had built a small empire of commercial properties across the Philadelphia suburbs. His mother, my grandma Johnson, was a socialite who sat on the boards of 3 charities and hosted dinner parties for 200 people without breaking a sweat. They were good people. Strict. Proper. They believed in hard work, discipline, and the obligation that comes with privilege. They gave Lawrence everything. Private schools. Summer camps. A car on his 16th birthday. A trust fund that would activate on his 25th birthday. Lawrence was charming. He was handsome. He had a smile that could get him out of trouble and into bed with equal ease. He was completely incapable of taking anything seriously. Marie Phillips grew up in a similar world. Her father, my grandpa Phillips, was a surgeon at the University of Pennsylvania. Her mother, my grandma Phillips, was a nurse who had worked her way up to hospital administration before retiring early. They were comfortable. Not as wealthy as the Johnsons, but comfortable. They valued education, responsibility, and the idea that privilege comes with duty. They gave Marie everything they could. Dance lessons. Piano lessons. A trip to Europe for her 15th birthday. Marie was wild. She was rebellious. She was the kind of teenager who smoked cigarettes behind the school and snuck out of her bedroom window at night and came home smelling like beer and cheap perfume. She was beautiful. She was popular. She was every boy's dream and every parent's nightmare. They met at a party when Lawrence was 16 and Marie was 15. It was a Friday night. The kind of party that happens when wealthy parents go out of town and leave their teenagers alone with a house and a credit card and no supervision. There were 100 kids there. Music was loud. The air was thick with smoke. Someone had brought a keg. Someone else had brought something stronger. Marie was sitting on the kitchen counter. She was wearing a dress that was too short and heels that were too high. She was holding a red cup and laughing at something a boy had said. Lawrence walked in. He saw her. He could not look away. He walked over. He said something clever. She laughed. He handed her a drink. She took it. They talked. They danced. They disappeared into a bedroom upstairs. For a year, they were inseparable. They were the couple that everyone knew. The couple that everyone talked about. The couple that everyone wanted to be or wanted to be with. They partied every weekend. They drank. They smoked weed. They tried things that they should not have tried. They snuck out of their parents' houses at midnight and met at the park or the quarry or the abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. They ran around with a crowd of wealthy kids who had too much money and too little supervision. Kids whose parents were too busy with their careers and their affairs and their own problems to notice what their children were doing. They skipped school. They got detentions. They got suspensions. They got warnings from teachers and counselors and principals. They did not care. They were young. They were invincible. They were living for the moment. Lawrence got arrested for drunk driving at 17. He crashed his car into a mailbox on a residential street. No one was hurt. My grandpa Johnson hired a lawyer. The charges were reduced. Lawrence was sentenced to community service. He did not learn his lesson. Marie got caught shoplifting at a mall. She stole a pair of earrings that cost $50. She could have paid for them 10 times over. She stole them because she could. Because it was exciting. Because she liked the rush. My grandpa Phillips paid the fine. He grounded her for a month. She snuck out the first night. They were happy. They were free. They were everything they wanted to be. And then Marie got pregnant. With me. It was an accident. They were not trying. They were not ready. They did not want a child. Marie was 16. Lawrence was 17. They wanted to keep living the way they had been living, with no responsibilities and no consequences and no one depending on them for anything. Marie told her friends. Lawrence told his friends. That is what teenagers do. They talk. They gossip. They share things they should keep to themselves. Within a week, everyone in their social circle knew. Within 2 weeks, the parents knew. That is how it works in communities like Bryn Mawr. Secrets do not stay secret. Children talk. Parents listen. Word travels. Grandma Johnson found out from a friend whose daughter had been at the same party where Marie had announced it. She called Grandpa Phillips. He called Grandma Phillips. Within 24 hours, both families were in the same room. The Johnsons and the Phillips had always been united when it came to Kim. This was no different. They confronted Marie and Lawrence on a Sunday afternoon. Both sets of grandparents. In the Johnson living room. Marie and Lawrence sat on the couch. The grandparents sat across from them. The air was thick with tension. The Johnsons said if they aborted me, they would cut Lawrence off. No trust fund. No allowance. No car. No college tuition. No more bailing him out of whatever trouble he had gotten himself into. He would be on his own. He would be disowned. The Phillips said if they aborted me, they would cut Marie off. No more money. No more support. No more safety net. She would be on her own. She would be disowned. But both families said something else too. They said if Lawrence and Marie had me, if they married and raised me, they would continue to support them. They would give them a place to live. They would give them an allowance. They would help with the baby. They would make sure they were taken care of. Marie and Lawrence looked at each other. They were teenagers. They were scared. They were faced with a choice that no teenager should have to make. Keep the baby and keep their lifestyle. Or lose everything. They chose to keep me. Not because they wanted me. Because they wanted the money. They got married at the courthouse on a Tuesday. No ceremony. No reception. No family photos. Just a judge and 2 witnesses and 2 teenagers who resented each other and resented the baby growing inside one of them. I was born on a Thursday in October. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Healthy. Normal. The doctors said I was perfect. My parents did not say anything. They held me because the nurses told them to. They posed for pictures because the grandparents wanted them to. They went home because that is what you do after you have a baby. Then they handed me to my Grandma Johnson and went to bed. The first 4 years of my life are a blur. I know what happened because my grandparents told me. I know that my parents were present in body but absent in every other way. I know that my mother did not breastfeed me. I know that my father did not change my diapers. I know that I was left in cribs and playpens and car seats for hours at a time while my parents slept or argued or left the house without me. I know that the neighbors called CPS 3 times before I turned 2. I know that CPS came and went and nothing ever changed because my parents were good at pretending. They could hold it together for an hour. They could smile and nod and answer the questions the right way. They could make the social workers believe that everything was fine. Everything was not fine. The third time CPS was called, I was 4. I had wandered out of the house in the middle of the night. I was wearing a diaper and nothing else. It was November. I was standing in the middle of the street, crying, when a neighbor found me. She picked me up. She took me inside. She called the police. The police came. CPS came. They found my parents in bed. They found the house in squalor. They found dirty dishes piled in the sink and trash on the floor and a refrigerator that was almost empty. They found evidence of drug use. They found everything they needed to find. This time, the grandparents intervened. Both sets. Together. The way they always did when it came to me. They went to court. They hired lawyers. They fought for custody. My parents did not fight back. They were too tired. They were too broken. They were too whatever they were. The judge gave custody to my grandpa and grandma Johnson. The Phillips were given visitation rights. My parents were given supervised visitation only, which they never used. I was 4 years old. I did not understand what was happening. I did not understand why I was being taken from the only home I had known. I did not understand why my mother was crying. I did not understand why my father was not looking at me. I did not understand why the nice lady in the uniform was putting me in a car and driving me to a house I had never seen before. I remember the house. It was big. It was clean. It smelled like lavender and fresh laundry. There was a woman with gray hair and kind eyes who picked me up and held me and said everything was going to be okay. There was a man with a deep voice who knelt down and looked me in the eye and said, "Welcome home, sweetheart." I remember thinking that I wanted to stay. I stayed. The first year was an adjustment. I was 4 years old. I was in a new place with new people. But my grandparents made it easy. They were patient. They were loving. They made me feel safe. My grandparents did that. Both sets. The Johnsons during the school year. The Phillips during the summers. They coordinated schedules and holidays and birthdays. They made sure I never felt like I was bouncing between families. They made sure I felt like I had one family that happened to live in 2 houses. My grandma Johnson was the one who taught me what a mother was supposed to be. She was the one who braided my hair in the morning. She was the one who packed my lunch and put notes in my lunchbox that said things like, "You are my sunshine and I am so glad you are here." She was the one who helped me with my homework. She was the one who read to me every night before bed. She was the one who held me when I had nightmares. She was the one who told me, every single day, that I was loved. My grandpa Johnson was the one who taught me what a father was supposed to be. He was the one who drove me to school every morning. He was the one who taught me to ride a bike. He was the one who bandaged my knees when I fell. He was the one who sat in the audience at every school play and every softball game and every spelling bee. He was the one who told me that I could be anything I wanted to be, as long as I was willing to work for it. They were not perfect. They were strict. They had rules. They had expectations. They believed that children needed structure and discipline and boundaries. But they also believed that children needed love. And they gave me both. Every day. Without exception. We had routines. Every morning, Grandma Johnson would make breakfast. Pancakes on Saturdays. Eggs and toast on weekdays. We would sit at the kitchen table and talk about the day ahead. She would ask me what I was looking forward to. She would ask me what I was worried about. She would listen. She would advise. She would send me off with a hug and a kiss and a lunchbox full of food and love. Every evening, Grandpa Johnson would help me with my homework. He would sit beside me at the dining room table and walk me through math problems and spelling words and science projects. He was patient. He was thorough. He never made me feel stupid for not understanding something. He would just explain it again. And again. And again. Until I got it. After homework, we would eat dinner together. Grandma Johnson would cook. Grandpa Johnson would set the table. I would help by folding the napkins. We would sit down and hold hands and say grace. Then we would eat and talk and laugh and argue about whether the Phillies had a chance at the playoffs that year. After dinner, Grandpa Johnson would read the newspaper. Grandma Johnson would do the dishes. Then Grandma Johnson would read to me. She would sit in the rocking chair and I would sit in her lap and she would read stories about princesses and dragons and faraway lands. I would fall asleep in her arms. She would carry me to bed. She would tuck me in. She would kiss my forehead. She would say, "Good night, sweetheart. I love you." Both sets of grandparents cut my parents off completely. No more money. No more apartment. No more allowance. No more bailouts. They told my parents that if they wanted to be part of the family again, they would have to get clean, get jobs, and prove that they could be responsible adults. My parents said they would. They did not. They moved away instead. They left Bryn Mawr. They left Pennsylvania. They went somewhere else. I do not know where. My grandparents never told me. I never asked. I started kindergarten at the local elementary school. I was nervous. I was shy. I did not know anyone. On the first day, I sat in the corner and did not talk to anyone. A girl with red hair and freckles sat down next to me. She said her name was Emily Deacon. She said she liked my shoes. She said we should be friends. I said okay. Emily became my best friend. She was everything I was not. She was loud. She was confident. She was fearless. She talked to everyone. She made friends everywhere she went. We complemented each other perfectly. We were inseparable. We did everything together. We had sleepovers every weekend. We walked to school together. We ate lunch together. We played on the same softball team. We went to the same summer camp. We told each other everything. She was the sister I never had. Emily's family was wonderful. Her parents were together. They were happy. They had 3 kids and a dog and a house with a swing set in the backyard. Her mom cooked dinner every night. Her dad came home from work at 6 o'clock every evening. They sat around the table and talked about their days. It was loud and messy and fun. I loved going to Emily's house. I loved the chaos. I loved the noise. I loved spending time with her family. It was different from my home with my grandparents, but it was wonderful in its own way. Emily never asked about my parents. She never questioned why I lived with my grandparents. She just accepted me. She just included me. She just made me feel like I belonged. At 6, I got a dog. A boxer named Bruiser. He was brindle-colored with a white chest and a face that looked like he was always worried about something. My grandpa Johnson brought him home on a Saturday afternoon. He said every kid needed a dog. He said Bruiser was from a shelter and needed a good home. I loved that dog more than I loved most people. He slept on my bed every night. He followed me around the house. He waited by the door when I went to school and greeted me like I had been gone for years when I came home. He was my protector. My companion. My best friend after Emily. He was also the most stubborn animal I have ever met. He refused to walk on a leash. He refused to sit when told. He refused to come when called. He ate my homework. He ate my shoes. He ate a hole in the living room carpet. My grandma would scold him and he would look at her with those big brown eyes and she would forgive him immediately. He was impossible to stay angry at. He had one quirk that made everyone laugh. Every morning, without fail, he would go to the same tree in the backyard and urinate on it. The big oak tree. It was his tree. He had claimed it. No other dog was allowed near it. If a squirrel came close, he would bark at it until it ran away. If a bird landed on it, he would stare at it until it flew away. It was his tree. And he made sure everyone knew it. Bruiser and I were inseparable. I would come home from school and he would be waiting at the door, his tail wagging so hard his whole body shook. I would drop my backpack and sit on the floor and he would climb into my lap. He was 50 pounds of muscle and love. He would lick my face. He would nuzzle my neck. He would sigh with contentment. Like he had been waiting all day for this moment. Like there was nowhere else he would rather be. On weekends, we would go to the park. Grandpa Johnson would drive. I would sit in the back seat with Bruiser. He would stick his head out the window and let the wind flap his ears. He would bark at other dogs. He would chase squirrels. He would roll in the grass. He would come back covered in mud and leaves and burrs. Grandma Johnson would scold us both. She would hose him off in the backyard. He would shake water everywhere. We would all get wet. We would all laugh. At night, Bruiser would sleep at the foot of my bed. He would snore. Loudly. Like a freight train. Grandma Johnson would come in to say goodnight and she would shake her head and say, "That dog is going to shake the house down." I would smile. I would pull the covers up. I would fall asleep to the sound of his breathing. It was the most comforting sound in the world. He was my dog. My protector. My friend. My family. At 7, I won first place in the school spelling bee. I spelled necessary and accommodation and rhythm and a bunch of other words that most 7-year-olds cannot spell. My grandparents were in the audience. They were cheering. They were crying. Afterward, they took me out to eat at a restaurant with cloth napkins and real silverware. Grandpa Johnson said he was proud of me. Grandma Johnson said I was brilliant. Grandma Phillips said I got my brains from her side of the family. Grandpa Phillips said I got my determination from his side. It was a normal interaction between myself and the people who loved me. The spelling bee was the first time I realized that I was good at something. Not just okay. Not just average. Good. I had a talent for words. For language. For understanding how letters fit together to make meaning. It was like a door had been opened in my brain and behind it was a room full of things I had never seen before. I started reading voraciously. I read everything I could get my hands on. I read books about girls who went on adventures. I read books about dogs who saved their owners. I read books about families who overcame obstacles. I read books about the world and how it worked and why things were the way they were. My grandparents encouraged it. They took me to the library every Saturday. They let me check out as many books as I wanted. They bought me books for my birthday and for Christmas and for no reason at all. They built me a bookshelf in my bedroom. They filled it with stories. Books became my passion. I could open a book and disappear into a different place. A place where anything was possible. Where adventures waited around every corner. Where characters overcame obstacles and found their way. Every summer, I stayed with the Phillips grandparents. They lived in Philadelphia during the year, close to the hospital where Grandpa Phillips was a surgeon and Grandma Phillips worked in administration. But they also owned a farmhouse in Lancaster County with 10 acres of land. It was their weekend home. Their escape from the city. They would drive out on Friday nights and come back on Sunday evenings. Every summer, I would stay there for 2 months. The farmhouse had a barn that Grandpa Phillips had converted into a workshop. He built furniture. He carved birds. He taught me how to use a hammer and a saw and a level. He taught me how to measure twice and cut once. He taught me that the most important thing in life is not what you build, but how carefully you build it. Grandma Phillips taught me how to cook. She taught me how to make pie crust from scratch. She taught me how to roast a chicken. She taught me how to grow tomatoes and basil and peppers in the garden behind the house. She said every woman should know how to feed herself and the people she loves. She said food is how we show love when words are not enough. I loved the farmhouse. I loved the land. I loved the barn. I loved the garden. I loved the way the air smelled in the morning, like dew and earth and growing things. I loved the way the stars looked at night, so bright and close that I felt like I could reach up and touch them. I loved the way time moved differently there, slower and more gentle than it did in the city. Every year, both sets of grandparents would get together for a major holiday. Thanksgiving one year at the Johnsons, Christmas at the Phillips. Then they would switch. The whole family would gather. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone would eat and talk and laugh and argue about politics and sports. It was loud and chaotic and overwhelming, and I loved every second of it. I would look around the table and see all these people who loved me. All these people who had chosen me. And I would feel grateful. Grateful for the family I had. At 10, I was well liked in school. I had lots of friends. I was on the softball team and the creative writing club. I got good grades. I read books above my grade level. I was the kind of kid that teachers loved and parents admired and other kids wanted to be around. I asked Grandma Johnson about my parents once. I was 10. I was curious. I had noticed that my friends' parents picked them up from school and mine did not. "Where are my mom and dad?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time. She took a deep breath. "They are not able to be here right now," she said. "Why?" "Because they are dealing with some grown-up problems." "Will they come back?" "I do not know, sweetheart." "I hope so." I nodded. I hugged her. I went outside and played with Bruiser. It was not something I dwelled on. I had a good life. I had grandparents who loved me. I had Emily. I had a dog. I was happy. At 11, I started middle school. It was a new building. New teachers. New kids. A bigger world. I was nervous. Emily was with me. She was always with me. We walked through the halls together. We sat together at lunch. We joined the same clubs. We were still inseparable. But middle school was different. The kids were older. The social dynamics were more complicated. There were cliques and hierarchies and rules that no one explained but everyone was expected to follow. I was quiet. I was studious. I was not interested in drama or gossip or who was dating whom. I was interested in books and grades and getting into a good college. I had friends. I had Emily. I had my grandparents. I had my books. I was happy. At 13, I had my first crush. A boy named David. He sat in front of me in science class. He had brown hair and green eyes and a smile that made my stomach do flips. I did not tell anyone. Not even Emily. I kept it to myself. I wrote about it in my journal. I dreamed about it at night. I did nothing about it. It was normal. It was the kind of thing that every teenage girl goes through. The butterflies. The nervousness. The wondering if he liked me back. It was exciting and terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. At 14, I lost Bruiser. He was 12 years old. Old for a boxer. His hips had been going bad for a while. He could barely walk. He could barely eat. He spent most of his days lying on his bed, looking at me with those big brown eyes that said, "I am tired. I am ready. But I do not want to leave you." One morning, I woke up and he was lying on his bed, not moving. I knew before I touched him. I knew before I put my hand on his chest. I knew before I felt the stillness. I sat on the floor next to him. I put my hand on his head. I told him that he was the best boy. I told him that I loved him. I told him that it was okay to go. I told him that I would be all right. I did not know if I would be all right. But I said it anyway. Because that is what you say to someone you love when they are leaving. I cried for 3 days. My grandparents let me. They did not tell me to stop. They did not tell me it was just a dog. They knew he was not just a dog. He was my family. Grandma Johnson sat with me on the first night. She held me while I cried. She did not say anything. She just held me. After a while, she said, "He was the best dog. He loved you so much. I loved him too. I know you did. And he knew it too." Grandpa Johnson dug the hole. Grandma Phillips wrapped Bruiser in his favorite blanket. The blue one that he used to lie on in the living room. Grandpa Phillips carved the marker. A small stone with a boxer's face and the words Bruiser. The best boy. We buried him under the tree in the backyard. The big oak tree. The one he used to urinate on every single morning because he had decided, for reasons known only to him, that it was his tree. I stood at the grave for a long time after everyone went inside. I stood there and looked at the dirt and the stone and the tree and I said goodbye to the best dog I had ever known. I still miss him. I miss him every day. I miss the way he snored. I miss the way he drooled on everything. I miss the way he would put his head on my lap and look up at me like I was the most important person in the world. I miss the way he made me feel safe. I miss the way he made me feel loved. At 14, I started high school. I was nervous. I was excited. I was ready for a new chapter. I joined the track team. I joined the debate team. I joined the math club. I took AP classes. I studied harder than I had ever studied before. I was determined to get into a good college. Emily was with me. She was always with me. We were on the same track team. We were in the same AP classes. We studied together. We ate together. We laughed together. We were still inseparable. But something had changed between us. Not for the worse. For the different. We were growing up. We were becoming our own people. We were starting to have lives that did not revolve around each other. Emily started dating a boy named Marcus. I did not like him. He was loud and obnoxious and treated Emily like she was a possession. But she liked him. And I supported her. Because that is what best friends do. At 16, I received a letter. It was in a plain white envelope with no return address. It was addressed to me. The handwriting was shaky. Unsteady. Like the person writing it had been drinking. I read it. I read it again. I shook my head. I could not believe what I was reading. It was from my mother. She said I had ruined her life. She said that if I had never been born, she would have been free. She said that my grandparents had stolen her life by forcing her to have me. She said that my existence was the reason she was broke and miserable. She said that every bad thing that had ever happened to her was because of me. She said she wished she had gone through with the appointment at the clinic. I folded the letter. I walked downstairs. I handed it to my Grandma Johnson. "Mom got a letter from my mother," I said. Grandma Johnson read it. Her face tightened. She looked at me. "Are you okay?" I am fine. She is a stranger. Her words do not hurt me. Grandma Johnson hugged me. She told me she was proud of me. She told me that I was loved and wanted and that nothing my mother said would ever change that. I knew that. I had always known that. My grandparents handled it. I do not know what they did. I do not know if they called her or wrote to her or ignored her. I did not ask. It was not my problem. I had a life to live. I had school and softball and creative writing club and Emily. I did not have time to worry about a woman who wished I had never been born. At 17, a boy transferred to my school from another state. His name was Cecil Dalton. He was tall and quiet and had dark hair and brown eyes and a way of looking at people like he was trying to figure out what made them tick. He sat behind me in AP History. He was annoying. He tapped his pencil. He hummed under his breath. He asked me questions that the teacher had just answered. What page are we on? What did the teacher just say? What is the homework? I would answer. I would sigh. I would roll my eyes. He would smile and say, "Thanks, Johnson." Like we were friends. I did not like Cecil Dalton. I did not like him at all. I asked Emily about him. She said he had transferred from Ohio. She said his dad was an engineer who had gotten a job in Philadelphia. She said he was quiet and nice and kind of cute. I said he was loud and annoying and kind of a pain. Emily laughed. She said I protested too much. I did not protest too much. I protested the exact right amount. In my junior year, I started dating a boy named Ryan Scott. He was on the debate team with me. He was tall. He had sandy blonde hair and a crooked smile. He made me laugh. He made me feel things I had not felt before. Butterflies. Nervousness. The kind of excitement that makes your heart beat faster and your palms sweat. We dated for a year. We went to movies. We went to football games. We went to prom. He bought me a corsage. I bought him a boutonniere. We danced under a disco ball in the gymnasium. It was magical. It was the kind of night that teenage girls dream about. Then his father got a job transfer. To Texas. Ryan told me at lunch one day. He was upset. He did not want to go. He said he would call. He said he would write. He said we would make it work. We did not make it work. The calls became less frequent. The letters became shorter. Eventually, they stopped. It was not anyone's fault. It was just life. People move. Things change. You learn to let go. I was sad for a while. Emily helped me through it. She brought me ice cream. She watched movies with me. She told me there would be other boys. She was right. I graduated from high school on a Saturday in June. The ceremony was outside on the football field. The air was warm. The sun was bright. The speeches were long. But I did not care. I was graduating. I was moving on. I was starting a new chapter. All four of my grandparents were there. They sat together in the third row. Grandpa Johnson wore his best suit. Grandma Johnson wore a blue dress that matched her eyes. Grandpa Phillips wore a tie that Grandma Phillips had bought him for their anniversary. Grandma Phillips wore a corsage that I had picked out for her. When my name was called, I walked across the stage. I shook the principal's hand. I took my diploma. I looked out at the audience. I found my grandparents. They were on their feet. All four of them. Cheering. Clapping. Crying. Afterward, they took me out to dinner. The same restaurant where they had taken me after the spelling bee. Cloth napkins. Real silverware. Grandpa Johnson ordered a bottle of champagne. He said it was a special occasion. He said he was proud of me. Grandma Johnson said she was proud of me. Grandpa Phillips said he was proud of me. Grandma Phillips said she was proud of me. I said, I know. You tell me every day. They laughed. We ate. We talked about the future. We talked about Wharton. We talked about what I wanted to be. We talked about the life I was going to build. It was the best night of my life. Until my wedding. At 18, I left for college. Wharton. The University of Pennsylvania. I had applied because my Grandma Johnson told me I was smart enough to get in. I had applied because Grandpa Phillips told me that business was about building things and I was good at building things. I had applied because I wanted to build a great career. I got in. I got a scholarship. I packed my bags. I hugged my grandparents. I drove to Philadelphia. The first semester was an adjustment. I was living on my own for the first time. I was sharing a room with a stranger. I was eating cafeteria food. I was navigating a campus of 20,000 students. It was overwhelming. It was exciting. It was everything I had hoped it would be. I made friends. I joined study groups. I went to office hours. I asked questions. I raised my hand in class. I participated. I engaged. I threw myself into my education with the same intensity that Grandpa Phillips brought to his workshop. I studied finance. I studied accounting. I studied management and strategy and entrepreneurship. I did not party. I did not drink. I did not waste my time on things that did not move me closer to where I wanted to be. I graduated in 3 years instead of 4. I stayed for the MBA. I graduated with honors. The MBA program was intense. It was competitive. It was full of people who had been told their whole lives that they were the best and the brightest and the most likely to succeed. I was not intimidated. I had been raised by grandparents who taught me the value of hard work. I had been taught to measure twice and cut once. A case study about supply chain management was not going to break me. I excelled. I was at the top of my class. I won awards. I got offers from consulting firms and investment banks and private equity companies. I chose the consulting firm because it offered the best training. I chose to build my career the way Grandpa Phillips had taught me to build furniture. Carefully. Methodically. One piece at a time. I started dating again during the MBA program. A guy named Pete Thornton. He was in my cohort. He was smart. He was charming. He was the kind of guy who walked into a room and everyone noticed. We dated for 3 months. We went to dinners. We went to parties. We studied together. It was nice. It was comfortable. It was easy. Then he wanted more. He wanted to take the next step. He wanted to be physical. I was not ready. I told him I wanted to wait. I told him I needed more time. He said he understood. He waited. For a while. Then he broke it off. He said he needed more than I was willing to give. He said he wanted someone who was ready for a real relationship. He said it was not fair to either of us to keep going if we wanted different things. He was right. We wanted different things. I wanted someone who would wait. He wanted someone who would not. Neither of us was wrong. We were just incompatible. I was not upset. I was relieved. If he could not wait for me, he was not the right person. I had learned that from my grandparents. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love waits. Emily and I went out that weekend. She brought ice cream. We watched movies. She said, his loss. I said, I know. Emily and I stayed close through college. She went to Temple University, just across the city. We saw each other every weekend. We studied together at coffee shops. We ate dinner together at diners. We celebrated every milestone together. Every exam passed. Every paper finished. Every semester completed. She was my constant. My anchor. The person who kept me grounded when the world felt too big. I graduated from Wharton on a sunny day in May. The ceremony was on the main campus. Thousands of students in caps and gowns. Thousands of families in the stands. The air was warm. The speeches were inspiring. The mood was electric. All 4 of my grandparents were there. They had driven up from Bryn Mawr that morning. They arrived 2 hours early. They wanted good seats. They wanted to make sure they could see me when I walked across the stage. Grandpa Johnson wore his best suit. The same one he had worn to my high school graduation. Grandma Johnson wore a yellow dress that she had bought specifically for the occasion. Grandpa Phillips wore a tie that I had given him for his birthday. Grandma Phillips wore the corsage I had picked out for her. When my name was called, I walked across the stage. I shook the dean's hand. I took my diploma. I looked out at the audience. I found my grandparents. They were on their feet. All 4 of them. Cheering. Clapping. Crying. Afterward, we took pictures. Hundreds of pictures. My grandparents with me. My grandparents with Emily. My grandparents with each other. Every combination possible. Grandma Johnson made us pose in front of every landmark on campus. She said she wanted to remember every moment. She said she was going to frame the pictures and hang them on the wall next to my high school graduation photos. We went to dinner. A nice restaurant. Cloth napkins. Real silverware. Grandpa Johnson ordered a bottle of champagne. He said it was a special occasion. He said he was proud of me. Grandma Johnson said she was proud of me. Grandpa Phillips said he was proud of me. Grandma Phillips said she was proud of me. I said, I know. You tell me every day. They laughed. We ate. We talked about the future. We talked about my job offer. We talked about the life I was going to build. After graduation, Emily and I went out to celebrate. We went to a bar in Philadelphia. We drank too much. We danced too much. We stayed out too late. We walked back to my apartment at 3 in the morning, laughing about nothing and everything. I am proud of you, Emily said. Thank you. You are going to change the world. I do not want to change the world. I just want to be able to pay my rent. You will do that too. I did do that. And more. I got a job at a financial consulting firm. I worked 80 hours a week. I saved every penny I could. I invested wisely. I took risks when the math said I should. I climbed the ladder faster than anyone expected. By 25, I was a senior analyst. By 28, I was a director. By 30, I was the CFO of Hargrove Capital Partners. The firm was small when I started. 12 people. A boutique operation that specialized in mid-market private equity. The founder was a man named Richard Hargrove. He was 60 years old. He had been in the business for 30 years. He was brilliant. He was demanding. He was the kind of boss who expected you to give everything and gave you everything in return. He saw something in me. I do not know what. Maybe it was my work ethic. Maybe it was my intelligence. Maybe it was the fact that I did not complain. I did not make excuses. I did not ask for special treatment. I just worked. Every day. All day. Until the job was done. He promoted me quickly. Analyst to senior analyst to director to CFO. Each promotion came with more responsibility. More money. More pressure. I thrived on it. I thrived on the challenge. I thrived on the feeling of building something. Of creating something. Of making something from nothing. At 25, I ran into Cecil Dalton. I was at a coffee shop in Philadelphia. I was in line. I was checking my email on my phone. I heard a voice behind me. Kim Johnson? I turned around. It was him. Taller than I remembered. Broader. Still had the same dark hair and brown eyes. Still had the same way of looking at people like he was trying to figure them out. Cecil Dalton? You remember me. You are hard to forget. You tap your pencil. He laughed. I stopped doing that. Good. We talked for an hour. He had gone to Penn State. He had studied engineering. He was working for a construction company in Philadelphia. He was designing buildings. He was happy. I heard about you, he said. Wharton. MBA. CFO. You did well. I worked hard. I know. I always knew you would. We exchanged numbers. We texted. We met for coffee. Then dinner. Then more dinner. Then weekends. Then trips. Then meeting each other's families. Then talking about the future. I made him wait a year before I called him my boyfriend. I was not going to rush into anything. I was not going to make decisions based on feelings. I was going to make decisions based on evidence. And the evidence said that Cecil Dalton was a good man. He was kind. He was patient. He was honest. He was the kind of man who showed up. Who did what he said he would do. Who respected me. I had never met anyone like him. He was special. And I knew it. We dated for 2 years before we moved in together. We bought a house in the suburbs. A 4-bedroom with a backyard and a garden and enough space for a dog. We did not get a dog. Not yet. We were waiting. For what, I was not sure. Maybe for the right time. Maybe for the right dog. Maybe for the feeling that we were ready to be responsible for something alive. Cecil was patient. He was always patient. He did not rush me. He did not pressure me. He did not ask me to be something I was not. He just loved me. Quietly. Steadily. The way he did everything. I loved him back. It took me a long time to say it. It took me even longer to believe it. But I did. I loved him. I loved the way he hummed under his breath. I loved the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I loved the way he made me feel safe. I loved the way he made me feel like I was enough. Then, 3 months ago, my parents came back. Not in person. Not yet. They came back through lawyers. They came back through paperwork. They came back through a lawsuit that landed on my desk on a Tuesday morning. The lawsuit claimed that I owed my parents $5 million. The argument was as follows. My grandparents had cut my parents off from the family money because of me. The family money was supposed to be shared equally between Lawrence and his siblings. By cutting Lawrence off, my grandparents had effectively given his share to me. Therefore, I owed my parents the money that had been denied to them. Plus interest. Plus damages for the emotional distress of being separated from their child. I read the lawsuit 3 times. I sat at my desk. I stared at the wall. I called my attorney. His name was Levon Davonshire. He was 40 years old. He was the best family law attorney in Philadelphia. He had handled high-profile divorce cases, custody battles, and estate disputes. He was calm. He was methodical. He was ruthless when he needed to be. I have read the filing, he said. It is creative. I will give them that. Is it valid? They are arguing that you were unjustly enriched by your grandparents' decision to cut them off. They are claiming that the family money was meant to be distributed equally and that by removing your parents from the will, your grandparents effectively transferred their share to you. But I did not ask for that. I did not even know about it. That does not matter to them. They are arguing that you benefited from their exclusion. What are my options? We fight. We go to trial. We prove that your grandparents had every right to disinherit your parents. That they did it because your parents were negligent. Because they were unfit. Because they abandoned you. We prove that you owe them nothing. How long will it take? Months. Maybe a year. These things drag on. Fine. Fight it. Levon hired investigators. He hired forensic accountants. He hired experts on family law and estate planning. He built a case that was airtight. He was not going to lose. He was not going to let my parents win. The investigators found out where my parents had been living. They had been bouncing around the country for 28 years. They had lived in 12 different states. They had held over 30 jobs between them. None of them lasted more than a year. They had been arrested multiple times. Drug charges. Drunk driving. Petty theft. They had been in and out of rehab. They had been in and out of relationships. They had been in and out of trouble. They were broke. They were desperate. They were looking for someone to blame for the wreckage of their lives. And they found me. The forensic accountants traced the family money. They found that my grandparents had indeed cut Lawrence off. They found that the money that would have gone to Lawrence had been redistributed. Some of it went to charity. Some of it went to other family members. Some of it went into a trust for me. A trust that I did not know about. A trust that had been set up when I was 4 years old. A trust that was worth about $2 million. My parents were suing me for $5 million. They were claiming that the trust was only a fraction of what they were owed. They were claiming that the family money was worth much more. They were claiming that my grandparents had hidden assets. They were claiming that I had benefited from their exclusion. It was a mess. It was a complicated, tangled, ugly mess. And it was going to take months to untangle. The trial began 2 months ago. Judge Patricia Hoynes presided. She was 60 years old. She had been on the bench for 25 years. She had seen every kind of family dispute that existed. She was not impressed by emotion. She was not impressed by theatrics. She was impressed by facts. My parents' attorney was a man named William Akers. He was 58. He was slick. He was aggressive. He had a reputation for winning cases that should not be won. He stood in front of the jury and painted a picture of 2 parents who had been robbed of their child and their livelihood by overbearing grandparents who thought they knew best. Lawrence and Marie Johnson were young parents, Akers said. They were imperfect. They made mistakes. But they were denied the chance to grow, to learn, to become the parents they could have been. Instead, their child was taken from them. Their money was taken from them. And now their daughter has everything that should have been theirs. Levon stood up. He was calm. He was quiet. He did not raise his voice. Your Honor, the facts will show that Lawrence and Marie Johnson were not denied the chance to be parents. They were given every opportunity. They were given financial support. They were given emotional support. They were given time. They chose to reject every opportunity they were given. They chose to abandon their daughter. They chose to leave. No one forced them. No one stole from them. They made choices. And choices have consequences. The trial went on for weeks. Witnesses were called. Documents were presented. The grandparents testified. All four of them. Grandpa Johnson was stoic. He answered every question with precision. He did not get emotional. He did not get angry. He simply told the truth. We gave Lawrence everything, he said. We gave him every advantage. We paid for his education. We paid for his mistakes. We bailed him out time and time again. When he got Marie pregnant, we offered to support them. We told them that if they raised their child, we would be there for them. We kept our promise. They did not keep theirs. Grandma Johnson cried. She could not help it. She sat on the stand and talked about the day I was brought to her house. About how I was malnourished. About how I was scared. About how I cried for my mother for weeks. I held that girl every night, she said. I held her and I told her that she was loved. That she was wanted. That she was safe. And I meant every word. Grandpa Phillips was direct. He did not mince words. My daughter was a mess, he said. She was an addict. She was neglectful. She was not capable of being a parent. We tried to help her. We tried to get her into treatment. We tried to get her counseling. She refused. Every time. She refused. Grandma Phillips was the most emotional. She sat on the stand and talked about the summers the first spent with them. About how I would arrive at their house excited and curious and, over the course of 2 months, grow even more confident. She would help me in the garden, Grandma Phillips said. She would follow me around the kitchen. She would ask me questions about everything. Why does the bread rise? Why does the sky turn red at sunset? Why do birds sing in the morning? She was curious. She was bright. She was everything a grandmother could want in a grandchild. My parents testified too. Lawrence was defensive. He blamed everyone but himself. He blamed his parents for being too controlling. He blamed my grandparents for interfering. He blamed me for being born. I never asked for a child, he said. I was not ready. I was too young. My parents forced me into a situation I did not want. And then they punished me for not handling it well. Marie was different. She was cold. She was detached. She sat on the stand and spoke about me like I was a transaction. Like I was a line item on a balance sheet. I did not want to be a mother, she said. I was clear about that from the beginning. I was forced into it. My parents and his parents decided what my life was going to look like. They made the choice for me. And when I did not live up to their expectations, they took everything away. Levan cross-examined her. He was gentle. He was precise. He let her talk. And then he asked the question. Mrs. Johnson, did you ever, at any point, try to contact your daughter after you left Pennsylvania? Marie hesitated. I sent a letter. You sent one letter. When your daughter was 16. Would you like me to read it into the record? No. The letter states, and I quote, I wish I had gone through with the appointment at the clinic. Do you recall writing that? Silence. Mrs. Johnson? Yes. You wished your daughter had never been born. Is that correct? I was angry. I was hurt. I was. Is that correct, Mrs. Johnson? Yes. The courtroom was silent. The jury was silent. I was sitting at the table next to Levan. I did not move. I did not cry. I had already dealt with that letter. I had already shown it to my grandparents. I had already moved on. Levan let the silence hang. He let the jury absorb what they had heard. Then he moved on. Mrs. Johnson, can you tell the court where you have been living for the past 28 years? We moved around. How many states have you lived in? I do not remember exactly. The investigators found 12 different addresses in 8 different states. Is that correct? I suppose. Mrs. Johnson, can you tell the court what you do for a living? I do not currently have a job. When was the last time you were employed? Marie paused. I worked at a gas station for a few months. 2 years ago. Before that? I do not remember. Mrs. Johnson, the records show that you have been arrested 7 times. Drug charges. Drunk driving. Petty theft. Is that correct? I made mistakes. You made mistakes. And your daughter made a life. Is that fair to say? Akers stood up. Objection. Argumentative. Withdrawn, Levan said. No further questions. Emily testified. She sat on the stand and talked about meeting me in kindergarten. About how I was the shyest kid she had ever met. About how I barely spoke for the first month of school. About how she decided, on the first day, that she was going to be my friend whether I wanted her to or not. She needed someone, Emily said. She needed someone to say, hey, I see you. You matter. So I did. Every day. For 26 years. Cecil did not testify. I did not want him to. This was my fight. Not his. He was in the courtroom every day. He sat behind me. He did not speak. He did not react. He was just there. Present. Steady. The way he always was. After 6 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 2 days. They came back on a Wednesday afternoon. Judge Hoynes read the verdict. In the matter of Lawrence Johnson and Marie Johnson versus Kim Johnson, the jury finds in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claims are without merit. The defendant owes nothing to the plaintiffs. Case dismissed. The courtroom erupted. My parents' attorney, William Akers, was on his feet. He was objecting. He was demanding a mistrial. He was threatening to appeal. Judge Hoynes shut him down. Mr. Akers, the jury has spoken. The evidence is clear. Your clients have no claim. The case is dismissed. I suggest you advise your clients to move on with their lives. Akers was furious. His face was red. His hands were shaking. He grabbed his briefcase and stormed out of the courtroom. My parents followed him. They did not look at me. They did not look at anyone. They just walked out. I sat at the table. Levan was beside me. He was smiling. He was relieved. He was proud. You did it, he said. We did it. No. You did it. You stood up for yourself. You told the truth. You won. The trial was over. The verdict was clear. My parents had no claim. I could move on with my life. 3 weeks after the trial, Cecil proposed. We were at home. Our home. The house we had bought together. He cooked dinner. He lit candles. He poured wine. He got down on one knee. Kim. I have loved you since the day you told me to stop tapping my pencil. I have loved you since the day you told me to pay attention. I have loved you since the day you looked at me like I was the most annoying person on the planet. I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you are worth loving. Will you marry me? I said yes. I said yes because I loved him. I said yes because he was the best man I had ever known. I said yes because he showed me what real love looked like. Patient. Kind. Unconditional. I said yes because I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this man. The way my grandparents had spent their lives together. The way Emily had been by my side for 26 years. The way Bruiser had been my loyal companion. We planned the wedding for 2 months later. A small ceremony. family and close friends. The venue was a farmhouse in Lancaster County. My grandparents' farmhouse. The one where I had spent every summer. The one where Grandpa Phillips had taught me to build things and Grandma Phillips had taught me to cook. The farmhouse had changed over the years. Grandpa Phillips had added a porch. Grandma Phillips had expanded the garden. The barn had been repainted. But the bones were the same. The oak tree was the same. The fields were the same. The feeling was the same. It was still the place where I had learned to be loved. We spent 2 months preparing. Cecil built the arbor. He built it from wood that Grandpa Phillips had been saving in the barn for decades. Oak and walnut and cherry. He sanded it. He stained it. He carved our initials into the back. K and C, forever. Emily made the decorations. She made centerpieces from wildflowers that she picked from the fields around the farmhouse. She made garlands from greenery that she cut from the trees. She made tablecloths from fabric that she bought at a market in Philadelphia. She spent weeks on it. She did not complain. She did not ask for help. She just did it. Because she was Emily. And that is what Emily did. Grandma Johnson and Grandma Phillips handled the food. They cooked for 3 days. They made casseroles and pies and salads and cakes. They made enough food to feed 100 people. We were only expecting 40. On the day of the wedding, I stood in the bedroom where I had slept as a child. The bed was the same. The quilt was the same. The window looked out over the same fields and the same barn and the same oak tree where Bruiser was buried. I could see the marker from here. A small stone that Grandpa Phillips had carved with a boxer's face and the words Bruiser. The best boy. Emily was with me. She was my maid of honor. She was wearing a blue dress that she had picked out herself. She was crying. Stop crying, I said. I cannot help it. You are getting married. I know. You look beautiful. Thank you. I am so proud of you. Stop. You are going to make me cry. I want you to cry. This is a day for crying. Happy crying. I laughed. She laughed. We hugged. The ceremony was outside. Under the oak tree. The same oak tree where Bruiser was buried. It was a warm day. The sky was blue. The fields were green. The air smelled like cut grass and honeysuckle. Grandpa Phillips walked me down the aisle. He was 68 years old. He was wearing a suit that he had not worn in 10 years. He was crying. He held my arm. He walked slowly. He did not let go. I am so proud of you, he whispered. I know, Grandpa. You have become everything I hoped you would be. You and Grandma did that. No, sweetheart. You did that. We just made sure you had a safe place to do it. Cecil was at the altar. He was wearing a dark suit. He was smiling. He was crying. He looked at me like I was the only person in the world. The officiant was a judge who had known my grandparents for 30 years. He spoke about love and commitment and the families we choose. He spoke about how the people in this field were not just witnesses. They were the foundation of our lives. The people who had built us. The people who had shaped us. The people who had made us who we were. Cecil said his vows. He said them quietly. He said them with his eyes locked on mine. He said, I promise to love you. I promise to respect you. I promise to support you. I promise to laugh with you. I promise to cry with you. I promise to build a life with you. I promise to choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life. I said my vows. I said, I promise to love you. I promise to trust you. I promise to be your partner. I promise to be your friend. I promise to build a home with you. I promise to build a family with you. I promise to choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life. We exchanged rings. We were pronounced husband and wife. We kissed. Everyone cheered. The reception was in the barn. Grandpa Phillips had decorated it with lights and flowers and tables that he had built himself. The food was potluck. Everyone brought something. Emily brought a cake that she had spent 3 days making. Grandma Phillips brought pies. Grandma Johnson brought a casserole. Grandpa Johnson brought a bottle of whiskey that he had been saving for 30 years. We ate. We danced. We laughed. We celebrated. It was the happiest day of my life. Grandpa Johnson gave a toast. He stood up. He held his glass. He looked at me. 28 years ago, a little girl came into our lives. She was 4 years old. She had been through things no child should ever have to go through. Both sets of grandparents knew, from that very first day, that she belonged with us. That she was ours. That we would do everything in our power to give her the life she deserved. Today, I watched that little girl become a woman. I watched her marry a man who loves her. I watched her surrounded by people who care about her. I watched her smile. And I thought to myself, we did it. We gave her the life she deserved. Kim, you are the best thing that ever happened to us. You are the best thing that ever happened to this family. We love you. We are proud of you. And we could not be happier for you and Cecil. Everyone cheered. Everyone cried. I stood up and hugged my grandfather and whispered, "Thank you. For everything." He whispered back, "You are welcome, sweetheart. You earned every bit of it." Then my parents showed up. I do not know how they found out. I do not know who told them. But they were there. Standing at the edge of the property. Watching. Grandpa Johnson saw them first. He walked over. He did not run. He did not shout. He walked. Slowly. Deliberately. The way he did everything. "You are not welcome here," he said. Lawrence stepped forward. "She is our daughter. You lost the right to call her that a long time ago. We just want to talk to her." No. Marie was behind Lawrence. She was watching me. Her face was blank. Empty. The same face I had seen in my memories. The face of a woman who had never wanted to be a mother. Grandpa Phillips joined Grandpa Johnson. The two old men stood side by side. They were not big. They were not young. But they were solid. They were immovable. They were the wall between me and the people who had abandoned me. "You need to leave," Grandpa Phillips said. "This is a family event," Lawrence said. "Yes. And you are not family." The words hit Lawrence like a physical blow. He stepped back. He looked at Marie. Marie looked at me. I looked at her. For a moment, I felt something. Not love. Not longing. Not hope. Something else. Something that felt like pity. Like looking at a stranger who had made every wrong choice possible and was standing in the wreckage of their own life and still could not see that they had built the wreckage themselves. I turned away. I walked back to the barn. I danced with my husband. I did not look back. My grandparents handled it. I do not know what they said. I do not know what happened. I just know that when I looked toward the edge of the property again, my parents were gone. Grandpa Johnson told me later that they had called the police. That the police had come and escorted my parents off the property. That my parents had been given a trespass warning. That if they came back, they would be arrested. I did not ask for details. I did not want to know. I just wanted to enjoy my wedding. I just wanted to dance with my husband. I just wanted to be happy. And I was. That was 3 months ago. Today, I am sitting on the porch of my house in Philadelphia. Cecil is inside. He is making dinner. I can smell garlic and onions. I can hear music playing. I can hear him humming. He still hums. Under his breath. Always. I am thinking about my life. About where I started. About where I am. About the distance between those two places. I was a child who was loved. By grandparents who raised me with patience and devotion. By a best friend who decided on the first day of kindergarten that I was worth knowing. By a dog who slept on my bed and waited by the door and was the best boy. By a man who looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I was loved. And that love was the foundation of my life. It was enough to build a life on. It was enough to show me what matters most. My grandparents are still alive. All 4 of them. They are in their 70s now. They are slower. They are grayer. But they are still the same people who took me in when I was 4 years old. They are still the same people who loved me unconditionally. Grandpa Johnson still drives me to the airport when I travel for work. He still calls me sweetheart. He still tells me he is proud of me. Grandma Johnson still braids my hair when I visit. She still puts notes in my lunchbox when I stay for the weekend. She still tells me she loves me every single day. Grandpa Phillips still builds furniture in his workshop. He still carves birds. He still teaches me things. The last time I visited, he taught me how to make a dovetail joint. He said it was the strongest joint in woodworking. He said it was the kind of joint that held things together forever. Grandma Phillips still cooks. She still makes pies. She still grows tomatoes and basil and peppers in her garden. She still says that food is how we show love when words are not enough. I visit them every month. I drive out to the farmhouse on Friday nights and come back on Sunday evenings. I help Grandpa Phillips in the workshop. I help Grandma Phillips in the kitchen. I sit on the porch and watch the stars and feel grateful for the life they gave me. My parents are alone now. They are broke. They spent what little money they had on a lawsuit they could not win. They have no family. They have no friends. They have nothing but each other and the choices they made. I heard through the grapevine that they are living in a trailer park in Nevada. That Lawrence is working as a janitor at a casino. That Marie is not working at all. That they are still using. That they are still drinking. That they are still blaming everyone but themselves for the lives they have built. I do not hate them. I do not feel sorry for them. I do not feel anything for them. They are strangers. They are people who existed in the same world as me for a while and then did not. I am not their child. I am my grandparents' child. I am Emily's friend. I am Cecil's wife. I am Kim Johnson. I am the woman who was built by the people who loved her. And that is enough. It has always been enough. Cecil just called me inside. Dinner is ready. He made pasta. His specialty. He says he has a surprise for me. I think I know what it is. I think he wants to start trying for a baby. I think he wants to build a family. I am ready. I am ready because I know what a family is supposed to look like. I know because my grandparents showed me. I know because Emily showed me. I know because Cecil shows me every day. I am ready because I know that love is not something that can be taken away. It is something that can be given. Freely. Completely. Without conditions. I am ready because I am my grandparents' granddaughter. I am Emily's friend. I am Cecil's wife. I am Kim Johnson. I am the woman who was built by the people who loved her. Please like and subscribe for more stories about life, choices, and the people who shape us.